need to do a hot take on Julia Fox. I find it really hard to look back on her hair outfits and think of them as part of some intentional theme. I think she just got lucky. This is The Detangler, where we talk about the meaning of hair as it appears in art, rituals, legends, and rules. Today, we're talking about Julia Fox. She's everywhere. She's so Julia. She's very prolific. She has a podcast, she's been in movies, she's active on social media, she's written a book, and she's everywhere. She's so Julia. But the thing is, she keeps coming across my radar for hair-related reasons. And I'm trying to figure out what the pattern is here. Before we go any further, I need to warn you that this video is going to broach upon some sensitive and potentially triggering topics, like female genital mutilation. It's also going to show some nudity, which I've discussed before, so you may also have to encounter some beeps and blurs along the way. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about Julia Fox. So a couple of weeks ago, Julia Fox wore this to an Oscars after party. She's essentially nude, except for some strategically placed bits of hair which cover her modesty, except actually not really very much. It's a riff on Lady Godiva, who I've done 2 videos on, my very first detanglers. You should check them out. To make a long story short, the legend of Lady Godiva is that she rode through town naked except for her long hair, which covered her modesty. She did it as a noble, self-sacrificing gesture to help her people, but over the years, it's become more and more sexualized until this point where it's basically just a voyeurism parable. Anyway, I'll link to the videos below. The designer of this dress is Dilara Findikoglu, and she's trying to evoke a biblical Eve here. She's done at least one other dress which involved hair, and that one was inspired by Venus. I wonder what's going on with her, why she's choosing these particular feminine icons to be associated with hair. Hair is filled with mythology and meaning, and these 2 feminine icons, there's nothing particularly hair-related in their mythologies, but they are filled with like a feminine mystique and allure, so it's curious. Dilara Findikoglu definitely seems like a designer worth exploring, but this is a video about Julia Fox. It's hard not to compare this dress to the one that Bianca Censori wore when she was alongside Kanye at the Grammys a while ago. They're both practically naked, but whereas Bianca Censori seemed worryingly under the control of Kanye, here Julia Fox seems very much like a woman in control of herself. It's worth remembering that Julia Fox dated Kanye briefly a few years ago. Whereas Bianca was really all but naked, Julia is sprouting hair miraculously to cover her modesty. Was she thinking all that through, or was she just wearing something edgy and showing off her body? It's not the first time Julia Fox has worn hair. She wore this on the cover of Gay Times, and all I can say is, wow, look at that workmanship. The designer is KimHekim, and apparently hair is one of his obsessions. Not a collection, an obsession. The way these designers are using hair in their couture as a beautiful substance, but with creepy connotations, is really surreal. Surrealism and fashion have a long history together, and I would love to do a deep dive into that discussion. But today, Julia Fox. Julia Fox likes to be edgy. She's never mainstream.
I just want more niche, more cool, more underground, like more eccentric, more unconventional.
And she champions small designers who are just coming up. So I really commend her for that.
Like, I just love finding these hidden gems of people and like wearing the fucking clothes.
She seems to generally have good instincts, and she clearly has just sheer charisma. But I think she has a scattershot approach, and she isn't really being thoughtful about the messages she's sending out. So now I want to tell you about what originally brought Julia Fox to my attention in terms of hair, and it's disturbing. It was when I was studying merkins for my series on pubic hair, and I came across a time when Julia Fox wore a merkin of female genital mutilation. It really disturbed me. I thought for a long time about whether this was giving like a different angle to merkins and how people approach them and think about them. Ultimately, I decided I didn't have to address it because it wasn't really hair as the focus so much per se. Anyway, I'm not going to show the image right here, right now, because I think it's inappropriate and I don't want to give it more airtime. When it happened, Savera UK, which is a charity that works to end honor-based abuse, put out a statement, and they called this horrifying and triggering. They said basically, don't use our trauma as a costume. And yes, I think that's exactly what's happening here. I could imagine Julia Fox trying to reason through her choice. She'd recently declared herself closed for sex, she was through with men, and maybe she was trying to bring attention to the cause of women who survived female genital mutilation. But as far as I can tell, Julia Fox is not associated with any FGM support organizations. She's not any kind of ambassador. And these aren't aspiring clothing designers. Bringing them attention isn't going to help them.
And I remember one time I said I was doing a service with my looks, and like the media kind of dragged me, like people drag me, like, what's the service? People see it, I get tagged in it, they send it to me. Like, I know the influence, I know the impact, and I know the vibes.
We all know from far too many examples that appropriating a group that's less fortunate than yourself for your benefit, for your fame, without their participation or consent or approval is insensitive. And you know, I bet Julia Fox didn't mean any harm by it. I would guess that she probably considers herself an ally. It was probably just a poor choice. And from what I know of Julia Fox, she would probably be the first to admit that she's made a few poor choices throughout her life.
I'd have been like, oh shit, you know, like my publicist isn't gonna like this, you know.
But she didn't about this. She never issued any kind of an apology that I was able to find. This subject just kind of disappeared, and Julia Fox is still the it girl. She wears really cool clothes. She's definitely at the center of all that is edgy and hip and cool and now. But I'm sorry, I just can't. I find it really hard to look back on her hair outfits and think of them as part of some intentional theme. I think she just got lucky. So that's my hot take on Julia Fox. If you're a big fan of hers, if you follow her, please let me know if I missed something crucial. Anyway, see you next time on The Detangler.